meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe, starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Of course, we're doing the Law of One, and I've got just a lot of love for this show and what we're going to be doing and talking about. So glad a lot of you guys can join us. We're doing sessions 95 and 96, and just kind of to remind people, I think 106 is the last one, so we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and some weird things are happening in the group, and this is part of what I'm so stoked about, because this information was amazing. It was a group that really put a lot of effort to channeling as purely as they possibly could. I've known a few people that have done similar things, and there is a set of rituals that one can go through, not necessarily magic, but just keeping your body pure and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that can be said for that. All that said, they're moving, and that's a big part of what they discuss in these 2 episodes, plus other stuff. But they're moving, and the first one's really about blessing the home. And the concept of garlic is brought up, which is very interesting, and I think maybe some of you might want to pay attention. Garlic and onions are both very interesting roots that absorb stuff from the surroundings, and it's kind of interesting. So you might find that interesting. We'll see. The fourth card, archetype. There we go. That word. They talk about the experience of the mind. They kind of get into that concept. I think it's also one of the more important archetypes because the experience isn't necessarily the same for everybody. You could have 5 people that see the exact same thing and have a different experience. It impacts them differently, different life experiences that it connected to, different points of the show or story hit them in different ways. It's the same thing. It's much like maybe in the Bible, even for that matter, or some of the other books that are out there. And many people could read it, and they get all sorts of different varietals of understandings. It's kind of a beautiful part about it, but at the same time, it does sort of create this interesting number of realities that can exist simultaneously. So each one of us has our own reality based off our own beliefs, based off our own structures that we've created, and that literally creates our reality. We can change that reality when we change the structures. The archetype of experience is really kind of getting into that. Now, again, these shows, I'm not doing justice on a lot of these topics. I'm really kind of coming at this from a very beginner, easy standpoint. Maybe somewhere down the road we might dig deep into this, or at least spend some time referencing specific episodes or shows or certain sessions. We'll see. But for the time being, we're just working on getting through it, getting some basics and foundation down, and then we can talk about more after that. 96 kind of gets into some of the stuff with Carla and some of her habits. And again, one thing I want to remind people, at least for the time being, we understand that life is a temporary thing. In one way or another, at some point, likely, you're going to experience seeing what the other side of the veil is. And that's really all that's going to be. But it can't be forever, and it certainly doesn't have to be right now. A lot of us, maybe when God chooses or when our higher self chooses or whatever the case may be. So this idea that I should do what I can to maximize the amount of actual time into this reality is maybe not always the best choice. Sometimes the best experience of what you came here to do is actually more worthwhile. And if that shaved off 2 years of your life, but you actually had way more enjoyment for many years of your life, some could argue that might be a better way to look at it. Now, again, it's each and every one of our own individual choices. It's just some of us are so worried about certain components that are probably going to happen for sure, when it's like, well, but what are you really here to do? What makes your soul sing? Why? What's your story? Why did you come here? And that's really what's going to change, I think, your experience. When you start to ask those questions to yourself or to God, source, you'll start to see answers. It's very powerful. So we get into that. Also, time, space, time. That's the veil. Time, space is here. So we live in a place that's kind of time and space is sort of this weird thing that kind of plays with time, right? But it's like time. We experience this weird thing of time. When you get on the other side of it, it's space. You're kind of more in the space area and less of time. Time's a very weird thing. They talk about how in there, what might be 10 minutes is, 10 days down here or whatever, right? Like the concept of time doesn't necessarily seem to work. And they also talk about how they're going to redraw the archetype cards from the deck they were going to sell, which, by the way, they do. If you go to llresearch, I think .org, LL Research is where these guys are famous for, Law of One, and then just make sure it's the LL Research Group. They got a whole bunch of crap if you want to get into it and study it more and read this stuff. Highly recommend you do that. That said, session 95. We're going to fire that one off. I got through these guys. I've been running up against I've been up against the ropes, I guess, today, as far as trying to get everything done. I barely got my videos uploaded before I started live. So anyway, we're doing it. It's happening, folks. But here is session 95. This is Law of One, and of course, it is on the Fringe. Law of One, session 95, recorded September 2nd, 1982. Ra. I am Ra. I greet you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Questioner, thank you. What is the situation with respect to our fifth density negative associate? Ra, I am Ra. The aforenamed entity has chosen various means to further its service, and though each is effective in itself, does not lead to the lessening of the dedication to service for others or the value of harmonious interaction. Therefore, the entity, though not as quiet as it has been, is somewhat depolarized on balance. Questioner, there seems to be an extremely high probability that we will move from this position to another residence. If we should move from this residence and cease using this room for workings with Ra, is there a magically appropriate ritual for closing the use of this place of working, or is there anything that we should do with respect to leaving this particular place? Ra, I am Ra. It would be appropriate to remove from this room and, to a lesser extent, from the dwelling, the charging of what you might call the distortions towards sanctity. To remove this charge, it is valuable either to write upon your paper your own working or to use existing rituals for the deconsecration of a sacred place, such as one of your churches. Questioner, thank you. The new room that we choose will of course be carefully cleaned and marred surfaces made well. We shall also use the banishing ritual of the lesser pentagram prior to a working. Is there anything else that Ra could suggest? And I would also know if there is anything in particular that Ra might suggest with respect to the particular place that has been chosen for the new location. Ra. I am Ra. We scan the recent memory configurations of the questioner. Firstly, there has been some less than harmonious interaction within this dwelling. The dynamics of this interaction were potent enough to attract a lesser thought form. Therefore, we suggest the salting and ritual cleansing by blessed water and all windows and doorways which offer add it into the domicile or any outbuildings thereof. Further, we suggest the hanging of the cut garlic clove in the portion of the room which has accommodated those whose enjoyment has turned into a darker emotion centering upon the area we find you call the wet bar. Also, the room intended for the sleeping which is found near the kitchen area. The appropriate words used to bid farewell to those of the lower astral shall be used in connection with the hanging of the garlic cloves for the period of approximately 36 of your hours. We believe that this is equivalent to 2 of your night periods and 1 of your lit periods. This should cleanse the house as you find it to the extent that it is neutral in its vibrations. We suggest that you then request of this living entity that it now be welcoming and absorbent for the vibrations of harmony, love, and thanksgiving which this group shall then, as the incarnational experience proceeds, offer to the domicile. Questioner. I am assuming that we would prepare the blessed water the same as we prepare the water for the instrument to drink after a session, and then would wipe the windows and doors with this water. Probably have to be done in a bucket, and I would like to know if this is correct and what was meant by salting of the windows and doors. Ra. I am Ra. Firstly, you may bless the water yourselves, or may request so-called holy water from any blessed place, that is, blessed by intention. Secondly, the water shall be carefully shaken from the fingers along the sills of all windows and doors, as they have been opened. Thirdly, prior to the sprinkling of this cleansing, blessing sacrament of water, the salt shall be trailed along these sills in a line and again allowed to exist in this configuration for 36 to 48 hours. Then, the virgin broom may ritually sweep the salt out of each window and doorway, sweeping with each stroke the less fortunate of the vibrations within the dwelling, which might find coexistence with your group difficult. Questioner. I assume you mean that we should put the salt on the outer doors only, and not the inner doors of the house. Is that correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. We cannot express the nature of salt and water and garlic with clarity enough to inform you as to the efficacy of which salt absorbs vibrations which have been requested to move into salt when salt has been given water. We cannot express the full magical nature of your water, nor can we express the likeness and attractiveness of the garlic cut to lower astral forms. The attractiveness is negative, and no service to self, astral form will accept coexistence with that cut garlic. Therefore, we offer these suggestions. We also request, carefully, that the broom be clean and that the garlic be burned. The virginity of the broom is most efficacious. Questioner, let me see if I have the scenario correctly. I'll repeat my version of it. We would hang garlic, fresh cut garlic, in the area of the wet bar and the area of the bedroom that is adjacent to the kitchen area. We would salt all window sills and all outer wall door sills, and then sprinkle blessed water from our fingers on all of the salted areas. We would then say appropriate words to bid farewell to lower astrals. Those words I am not sure of. Would Ra comment on the scenario that I've just stated? Ra. I am Ra. Your grasp of our suggestion is good. We note that the salt be poured in the straight line with no gaps. There are no various ritual words of blessing and farewell to entities such as you are removing. We might suggest the following. When the salt is laid, you may repeat, "We praise the one Creator which gave the salt the ability to enable those friends to which we wish to bid farewell to find a new home." As the water is sprinkled, you may say, "We give thanks to the one Creator for the gift of water. Over it, the Creator moves its hand and stirs its will to be done." The hanging of the cut garlic may be accompanied by the words, "We praise the one Creator for the gifts of garlic and bless its ability to offer to those friends to whom we wish to bid farewell the arrow which points their way of egress." When the sweeping is done, you may say, "We praise the one Creator and give thanksgiving for the spiritual cleanliness of this dwelling place." As the garlic is burned, you might say, "We give thanks to the one Creator for the gift of spiritual cleanliness in our dwelling place, and seal the departure of all those who have left by this exit by the consuming of this substance." Questioner: Is there any place more appropriate than another to hang the garlic in the rooms, for instance, over the windows or anything like that? I know it is supposed to be hung in the area of the bar, but I meant in the bedroom. Is there any more appropriate place than another? Ra: I am Ra. The windows and the doorways are most appropriate, and, in addition, we suggest the salting and sprinkling of any door, which may lead elsewhere than out of the dwelling, in order to afford to the entities the understanding that they are not desired elsewhere within the dwelling. Questioner: Okay. I understand that the garlic is to be used at the bar area and in the bedroom, that is close to the kitchen, and has an exit onto the carport. If I am correct, then, those are the only two places to use the garlic, the bar and that room with the exit to the carport. That's correct, isn't it? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: We would like to pick the most appropriate room for sanctifying for the Ra contact, and will not use that bedroom even though we've cleansed it. I would imagine it would be better not to use it, I am sure. But is there any room that would be most appropriate that Ra could name? Ra: I am Ra. When you have finished with your work, the dwelling shall be as a virgin dwelling in the magical sense. You may choose that portion of the dwelling that seems appropriate, and once having chosen it, you may then commence with the same sort of preparation of that place with which you have been familiar here in this dwelling place. Questioner: I am assuming that the newly chosen place meets parameters for best contact on the exterior of the house, and would ask Ra at this time if there is any suggestion with respect to the exterior of the house. Ra: I am Ra. The dwelling seems surrounded with the trees and fields of your countryside. This is acceptable. We suggest the general principle of preparing each part of your environment as it best suits each in this group with the beauty which each may feel to be appropriate. There is much of blessing in the gardening and the care of surroundings, for when this is accomplished in love of the creation, and the second density flowers, plants, and small animals are aware of this service and return it. Questioner: On one end of the house there are 4 stalls that have been occupied by horses. Would it be appropriate or necessary to modify in any way the condition of that area, even though it is outside the living area of the house? Ra: I am Ra. There has been no undesirable negative energy stored in this area. Therefore, it is acceptable if physically cleaned. Questioner: Is there any other comment in closing this questioning area upon the new location that Ra could make other than the comments already made on the new location or any part of it? Ra: I am Ra. We are gratified that this query was offered to us, for there has been a concentration of negative thought patterns at a distance north to 10 degrees of north, approximately 45 of what you call yards, extending therefrom to all 4 directions in a rectangular but irregular shape. We ask that the garlic be strung approximately 60 to 70 feet beyond the far verge of this area, which is approximately 57 yards from the dwelling on a bearing north to 10 degrees off north. We suggest that the garlic be hung in the funnel so that the energies are drawn into the south small end of the funnel and traduced northward and away from the dwelling. The procedure of the hanging will be one for testing your ingenuity, but there are several ways to suspend the substance, and it is well to do so. Questioner: I envision a cardboard funnel approximately 3 feet in length, and then a smaller cardboard funnel of the same configuration inside that funnel. Garlic placed between the 2 cardboard surfaces so the garlic is actually a funnel of garlic itself, and then held in place by the 2 cardboard combs, the smaller end of the cone being toward the house, the open or larger end being away from the house. I also would like to be sure that I accurately know the position that we're talking about by taking a specific point on the house, such as the front door, the door with the little roof extending over it at the front of the house, and taking a direction from that. I suspect that the direction is up toward the road that leads out of the property, and an exact measurement from the front doorknob to the center of the area of negativity of which we speak would be helpful. Would Ra comment on that I have just said? Ra, I am Ra. We were working from the other side of the dwelling. However, the exact distance is not important due to the generalized nature of the astral leavings. The heading would be approximately 10 degrees east to north to 5 degrees east of north. This is not a heading in which absolute fastidiousness needs to be paramount. The yardage is approximately as given. As to the hanging of the garlic, it must be able to be blown by the wind. Therefore, the structure which was envisioned is less than optimal. We might suggest the stringing between two placed posts on either side of the funnel of the strung cloves. Questioner, in order to make this funnel of garlic cloves, would a wire framework such as chicken wire, which has a small square-inch mesh or something like that shaped into a cone with the garlic attached to it and all around it, and with the small end toward the house and the open end away from it, strung between two poles, would that be appropriate, or must the wind blow it more than that? Ra, I am Ra. This is appropriate. You see in this case the center of the negativity is as described, but there will be a general cleansing of the dwelling and its acreage by this means. One action you might take in order to improve the efficacy of the cleansing of the environment is the walking of the perimeter with the opened clove in hand, swinging the clove. No words needs to be said unless each wishes to silently or verbally speak those words given for garlic previously. Questioner, is there any other thing that we can do to prepare this new place for the parameters of the beingness and communication with Ra in our own living or dwelling conditions that would be appropriate that Ra could mention at this time? Ra, I am Ra. There are no more specific suggestions for the specific location you contemplate. In general, the most cleanliness is most helpful. The removal from the mind complex of those thoughts not in harmony is most important, and those practices which increase faith and will that the Spirit may do its work are most helpful. Questioner, after the suggestions are accomplished with respect to cleansing of the property, does Ra anticipate that our contact with Ra will be as efficient with respect to the location parameters in that particular place as they are in this particular place? Ra, I am Ra. All places in which this group dwells in love and thanksgiving are acceptable to us. Questioner, thank you. A question has been asked, which I'll ask at this time. In processing the catalyst of dreams, is there a universal language of the unconscious mind which may be used to interpret the meanings of dreams? Or does each entity have a unique language of its unconscious mind which it may use to interpret the meaning of dreams? Ra, I am Ra. There is what might be called a partial vocabulary of the dreams due to the common heritage of all mind-body-spirit complexes. Due to each entity's unique incarnational experience, there is an overlay which grows to be a larger and larger portion of the dream vocabulary as the entity gains experience. Questioner, thank you. In the last session, you made a statement about the immature male meeting the female with respect to what occurred between the veil, that the information exchange was quite different. Would you give an example of the information exchange prior to the veil for this same case, please? Ra, I am Ra. Given this same case, this is the random red ray sexual arousal being activated in both male and female. The communication would far more likely have been to the subject of the satisfying of that red ray sexual impulse. When this had occurred, other information, such as the naming, could be offered with clear perception. It is to be noted that the catalyst, which may be processed by the pre-veil experience, is insignificant compared to the catalyst offered to the thoroughly bemused male and female after the veil. The confusion which this situation, simplistic though it is, offers is representative of the efficacy of the enlargement of the catalytic process occurring after the veiling. Questioner, for the condition of the meeting after the veiling process, either entity will choose as a function of its previous biases, or shall I say, will choose as a function of card 4 the experience, the way in which it will approach or handle the situation with respect to polarity, therefore producing, most probably, more catalyst for itself along the chosen path of polarization. Would Ra comment on that statement? Ra, I am Ra. This statement is correct. Questioner, in card 4 in the last session, we spoke of the shape of the skirt, and it has occurred to us that the skirt of the entity representing the archetype of experience is extended to the left to indicate that other selves would not be able to get close to this entity if it had chosen the left-hand path. There would be a greater separation between it and other selves, whereas if it had chosen the right-hand path, there would be much less of a separation. Would Ra comment on that observation? Ra, I am Ra. The student is perceptive. Questioner, and it seems that the square upon which this entity sits, which is almost totally black, is a representation of the material illusion, and the white cat is guarding the right-hand path, which is now separated in experience from the left. Would Ra comment on that observation? Ra, I am Ra. O student, your sight almost sees that which was intended. However, the polarities need no guardians. What then, O student, needs the guard? Questioner, what I meant to say was that the entity is guarded along the right-hand path once it is chosen from effects of the material illusion that are of a negative polarity. Would Ra comment on that? Ra, I am Ra. This is an accurate perception of our intent, O student. We may note that the great cat guards in direct proportion to the purity of the manifestations of intention and the purity of inner work done along this path. Questioner, from that statement I interpret the following meaning, that if the experience of the mind has sufficiently chosen the right-hand path, as total purity is approached in choosing of the right-hand path, then total imperviousness from the effect of the left-hand's catalyst is also approached. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is exquisitely perceptive. The seeker which has purely chosen the service to others' path shall certainly not have a variant apparent incarnational experience. There is no outward shelter in your illusion from the gusts, flurries, and blizzards of quick and cruel catalyst. However, to the pure, all that is encountered speaks of the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. The cruelest blow is seen with an ambience of challenges offered and opportunities to come. Thusly, the great pitch of light is held high above such a one, so that all interpretation may be seen to be protected by light. Questioner, I have often wondered about the action of random and programmed catalysts with respect to the entity with the very strong positive or negative polarization. Would one or either be free to a great extent from random catalysts occurring, such as a great natural catastrophes or warfare or something like that, generate a lot of random catalysts in the physical vicinity of a highly polarized entity? Does this great cat then have effect on such random catalysts upon the right-hand path? Ra, I am Ra. In two circumstances this is so. Firstly, if there has been this pre-incarnative choice that, for instance, one shall not take life in the service of the cultural group, events shall fall in a protective manner. Secondly, if any entity is able to dwell completely in unity, the only harm that may occur to it is the changing of the outward physical yellow ray vehicle into the more light-filled mind-body-spirit complexes vehicle by the process of death. All other suffering and pain is as nothing to one such as this. We may note that this perfect configuration of the mind, body, and spirit complexes, while within the third density vehicle, is extraordinarily rare. Questioner, am I to understand then that there is no protection at all if the experience of the mind has become negative and the negative path is traveled? All random catalysts may affect the negatively polarized individual as a function of the statistical nature of the random catalyst. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. You may note some of those of your peoples which, at this space-time nexus, seek places of survival. This is due to lack of protection when service to self is invoked. Questioner, the possibility of legs of the entity of card 4 being at approximate right angles was linked with the tesseract, mentioned in a much earlier session by Ra, as the direction of transformation from space-time into time-space, and I was thinking that possibly it would be also linked with the crux ansata. Am I in any way correct with this observation? Ra, I am Ra. This shall be the last query of this working, as transferred energy wanes. The observation of the right angles and their transformational meaning is most perceptive, O student. each of the images leading to the transformations of mind, body, and spirit, and ultimately to the great transformative choice, has the increasing intensity of increasing articulation of concept. That is to say, each image in which you find this angle may increasingly be seen to be a more and more stridently calling voice of opportunity to use each resource, be it experience as you now observe or further images. For the grand work of the adept which builds towards transformation using the Spirit's bountiful shuttle to intelligent infinity. Please ask any brief queries at this space-time. Questioner, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. We observe some small worsening of the distortions of the dorsal side. This is due to the nature of the beginning use of the swirling waters. The difficulties are physically accentuated as the swirling waters begin to aid the musculature surrounding the nexi of distortions. We encourage the swirling waters and note that complete immersion in them is somewhat more efficacious than the technique now used. We ask that the support group attempt to aid the instrument in remembering to preserve the physical energies and not expend them upon movements associated with the packing, as you call this activity, and the movement between geographical locations upon your sphere. The alignments are excellent. All is well. We leave you glorying in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the mighty peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. This time, at least I remembered to bring myself on stage. I was almost going to start talking. I'm like, oh, something's not right. Anyway, it's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. That was, of course, session 95. I have really 2 notes, and I don't know if I've got any questions. I should probably make sure I'm like over here screwing around on something else altogether. So yes, we do have a question from Think02000. We'll get to that question in a second. 2 kind of weird points that I want to bring up. That again, there's a lot of stuff in there. I'm not trying to feed everything to you guys, but what I'm trying to do is give you some information that's going to help you in the big picture. We're going through a short period of time here where things are going to really continue to accelerate, and this is just going to get it's exponential. It's heading that direction. So everything we can do, like if your life seems a little weird right now, topsy-turvy, out of control, right? If you're having chaos, that means you kind of got to get your focuses back into alignment. And if you're grooving, if you're cool, you're like, nah, everything's groovy, man. I'm almost bored. Perfect. You're doing awesome. Keep it up. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. Now, first, there are many cool things that we can use as far as tools, right? So there's tarot. There's, like I've said before, flipping coins, right? There's the stress test. I've told you guys that before. So you take one hand, right? I think that typically, it's usually these 2 fingers, right? These 2 fingers. I'm not trying to do any ones over the eye or anything weird. And then you do the same fingers over here, okay? And you just hold it. You're not trying to squeeze it. You're just holding it together. You're just holding it. Nothing, no real pressure, no not pressure, like it's holding, right? And then you ask like questions like, my name's George, and you're like, oh, it opens up. And you're like, my name's Dan. And it's oddly strong. I don't know, we called it stress testing. There's a lot of things. There's a number of things. You can use astrology. You can go out and throw darts in the sand. You can read tea leaves. Anything that helps you separate these 2 left brain, right brain things. That's why a lot of people, like one thing I used to do when I was trying to communicate and I was having a hard time with calls, when I was doing IT stuff, I was like a trauma guy with ITs, basically. It's like a paramedic for IT problems, right? And I'd literally sit there and I'd juggle while I was on the phone. And it kept that part of my brain busy while the other part of my brain could actually freely do what it needed to do. Sometimes that's why, if you guys have watched anyone learn how remote viewing kind of works, one of the things they do frequently is you'll catch them, just drawing a circle and they'll just start and what it does is it forces that part of your brain into an activity. So it's like, oh, okay. And then the other part of your brain can actually receive. And there is a lot of power to understanding how that process works and how to learn how to engage that at will and also not just leave it open. And that's one of the funny things a lot of people do too, is we frequently just leave the microphone open and stuff comes in and says things that aren't nice and can push you in bad directions. So understand that you have a lot of control over what's happening in your experience. So ask questions. If there's something that interests you, rather than asking someone like me or anybody else, look it up online. Find videos. There's a gazillion videos on every single factor of anything that you're curious about. And when you find curiosity, you'll find understanding. And when you find understanding, you'll find things that actually start to change your lives. Being engaged with the reality you experience is paramount. A lot of people don't get that. It's the most important thing that happens right now is that you figure out that your reality is the most important thing reflecting back onto you. And if you figure that out, and if you realize you have a lot to do with that, you can actually make a huge difference outside of your little bubble, which I believe is what most of you guys are here to do. So try and help in a weird way without, going too far over the line, right? So, chakras, manifesting, prayer, I don't know, there's anything whatever you want, look it up, learn about it, and you will start to do it and experience it, and you'll see your world change, and it'll trip you out. Also, our path creates feedback, and that's what I was kind of talking about there. But what do you do with that feedback? Many, many, many of us look at what happens in our lives, and we blame others. And I don't mean the nation per se. I'm not going that far. I'm talking about your own life. Like if your life's chaotic, I don't mean it's one thing to have the nation chaotic, like it kind of is right now, a little bit, right? My life's not. My life's chill. It's good. It's a good experience. I enjoy it, right? And then I pay attention to what happens when life does weird things to me. Like I'm hitting just 15 red lights in a row. It's like, oh, okay, well, what's going on here? Do I need to learn to be patient? So there's lessons baked into life for us. There's guardrails. I don't know if you've ever gone bowling where they put up the little things that block you from being able to throw gutter balls, which just ruins bowling. That's the point. If you just go straight to the gutter, you find your life so much easier. And then you're like, dude, I nailed it. What, we're getting points? I'm going for golf, low score? No? Oh. Yeah, again. We are getting feedback for ourselves in our specific lives, in our own lives. And it's very important that we get that. That's super, super important. All right, let's see what Think says. Oh, here we go. Think 2000. Question. Is time-space being equivalent to you being the space, living your experience as time passes, where space-time is equivalent to space, where all time experiences intersect in all time? Wow, I mean, that's deep. Is time-space being equivalent to you being the space? Oh, that's even up here. Maybe I can put it on the screen, too. Is that way up here? You guys have talked. Oh, there it is. You guys have talked a lot. There it is. Thanks, question. Is time-space being equivalent to you being the space, living your experience? I don't know if that's... See, here's one thing I would say. Have you ever been doing something really cool and it's only going to be an hour and it just goes like that? And then, you take the same example of, say, a test, an exam, or even, dentist appointment, maybe, who knows, whatever, it sucks. And you're sitting there just waiting, and and it's just taking forever. But there's, time is a weird thing, And so the space we occupy, I think that has a lot to do with dimensionality. I think that's where a lot of our quantum type stuff happens. This is where the veil kind of pops in and affects the space, the 3D reality that we walk through, the matrix, even if you will. I think the time is kind of the component of our mental part of it, sort of more. Again, this is sort of my understanding of it. And I don't fully grasp exactly how you were coming at this from. I feel like I'm at least talking on that subject-ish area. But we are very much involved with our own physical reality. And so that's kind of where a lot of the manifesting discussions even come from, is how much of that impact you have just by, you can phrase it how you want, but asking universe source to provide, or thanking and being, whatever, it's just imagining it and feeling it's coming already and knowing that and not questioning it, just it's coming, and it's just, you'll see it happen. And there's so many aspects to this. So, yeah, space and time. And then when you get outside of that, I always think of ghosts is an easy way to kind of experience it, where they're kind of outside of what we're in. This is the other side of the veil. And the reason it's sort of hard to describe, because it is the other side of the veil. It's higher dimensional or something, or it's this place where, None of us really know. We've talked to people. People have died and gone to the other side. Near-death experiences might be something you might have fun looking up. A lot of great information there. In fact, I wrote a paper my senior year of high school on near-death experiences. This is how long I've been a nut job. So it is. It's a great question, Tank. I love the question, and I love where your mind's at. And again, that's I don't know. I guess that's kind of my sort of diarrhea of it, if you will. But yeah. So anyway, let's get into 96 again. Like I said, Carla's habits, stuff like that. Redrawing the cards, time, space, time. So this might be maybe it answers it even better than I did. We'll see. Hopefully you think so, but I appreciate your question. That was a really, really good question. And Arlene, of course, thank you always for helping A score. She's awesome, man. You score some A. Dude, you got some of that A? No way. And she's a score. Ooh. Anyway, sorry. 96 is the episode, and we are kicking this one off. It is, of course, on the Fringe. Law of One, and we'll see what notes we come with this. Any questions, you guys, of course, throw them in the chat. Put question in front. It makes it easier for all of us. And we'll see how you guys do with this. But here is session 96. It is on the Fringe. One, session 96, recorded September 9th, 1982. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. The physical energy deficit is significantly greater than the last asking. There has been substantive lessening also in the vital energies. Also, the prerequisite degree of energy for mental, emotional distortions of normalcy are yet available. Questioner, could you tell me the cause of the lessening of the physical and vital energies? Ra, I am Ra. We found the need of examining the mental configurations of the instrument before framing an answer due to our reluctance to infringe upon its free will. Those concepts relating to the spiritual contemplation of personal catalyst have been appreciated by the entity, so we may proceed. This entity has a habitual attitude which is singular. That is, when there is some necessity for action, the entity is accustomed to analyzing the catalyst in terms of service and determining a course. There was a most unusual variation in this configuration of attitude when this instrument beheld the dwelling which is to be inhabited by this group. The instrument perceived those elementals and beings of astral character of which we spoke. The instrument desired to be of service by achieving the domicile in question, but found its instincts reacting to the unwelcome presences. The division of mind configuration was increased by the continuing catalyst of lack of control. Had this entity been able to physically begin cleansing the dwelling, the, shall we say, opening would not have occurred. Although this entity attempted clear communication upon this matter, and although each in the support group did likewise, the amount of Blu-ray work necessary to uncover and grasp the nature of the catalyst was not affected. Therefore, there was an opening, quite rare for this mind-body-spirit complex, and into this opening the one which greets you moved and performed what may be considered to be the most potent of its purely magical manifestations to this present nexus, as you know time. It is well that this instrument is not distorted towards what you may call hysteria, for the potential of this working was such that had the instrument allowed fear to become greater than the will to preserve when it could not breathe, each attempt at respiration would have been even more nearly impossible until the suffocation occurred, which was desired by the one which greets you in its own way. Thus the entity would have passed from this incarnation. Questioner, does this threat, shall I say, still exist, and if so, is there something that we can do to alleviate it? Ra, I am Ra. This threat no longer exists if you wish to phrase this greeting in that manner. The communication which was effected by the scribe and then by the questioner did close the opening and enable the instrument to begin assimilating the catalyst it had received. Questioner, the instrument asks, since this has to do with that house, is the house capable of being transformed by the painting and cleaning? We are able to undertake, that is, we don't plan to put down all new carpets. Are the carpets that are there now acceptable? I want to either bring this particular house up to acceptable limits. You say it will be neutral after we do the salting. I have only a concern with the condition for our work here. The physical location isn't that important. In fact, I don't consider this important at all. If the house is not capable of being brought up to good conditions that will afford us no problems of the type we've experienced, then I may select a different one. It's not that important. Would Ra comment on this? Ra, I am Ra. It is, of course, the preference of this group, which is the only consideration in the situation for contact with Ra. The domicile in question has already been offered a small amount of blessing by this group through its presence, and, as we have previously stated, each of your days spent in love and harmony and thanksgiving will continue transforming the dwelling. It is correct, as we have previously stated, that physical cleanliness is most important. Therefore, the efforts shall be made to most thoroughly cleanse the dwelling. In this regard, it is to be noted that neither in the dwelling as a whole wherein you now reside or in the chamber of this working is there an absence of your dust, earth, and other detritus, which is, in toto, called dirt. If the intention is to clean, as much as is to physically possible, the location, the requirements for physical cleanliness are fulfilled. It is only when a lower astral entity has, shall we say, placed portions of itself in the so-called dirt that care should be taken to remove the sentient being. These instructions we have given. May we note that just as each entity strives in each moment to become more nearly one with the Creator, but falls short, just so is physical spotlessness striven for but not achieved. In each case, the purity of intention and thoroughness of manifestation are appreciated. The variance between the attempt and the goal is never noted and may be considered unimportant. Questioner, the sequence of events that I am considering, which may be easily changed, is first the painting, then the cleaning, then the moving in of the furniture, then the salting and use of garlic. Is this sequence as good as any other sequence, or would a different sequence be better for those events? Ra, I am Ra. Any sequence which results in the cleansing is acceptable. It is to be noted that the thresholds are not to be crossed during the cleansing. Since such stricture upon use of the limen may affect your considerations, we make note of this. Questioner, was the unusual sound on the instrument's tape recorder that occurred while she was trying to record her singing a greeting from the fifth density negative associate? Ra, I am Ra. No, rather it was a greeting from a malfunctioning electronic machine. Questioner, there was no catalyst for the machine to malfunction from any of the negative entities then? Is that right? I mean, it just was a function only of the random malfunction of the machine? Am I correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, what was the origin of this malfunction? Ra, I am Ra. There are two difficulties with the machine. Firstly, this instrument has a strong effect upon electromagnetic and electronic machines and instruments, and likely, if continued use of these is desired, should request that another handle the machines. Also, there was some difficulty from physical interference due to the material you call tape catching upon adjoining what you would call buttons when the play button, as you call it, is depressed. Questioner, how is Ra able to know all of this information? This is a somewhat unimportant question, but it is just amazing to me that Ra is able to know all of these trivial things. What do you do? Move in time, space, and inspect the problem, or what? Ra, I am Ra. Your former supposition is correct. Your latter, unintelligible to us. Questioner, you mean you move in time, space, and inspect the situation to determine the problem? Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is so. Questioner, sorry to ask the unimportant question. I was thinking of the future readers and that they would be totally mystified as to how much... Was there a significance with respect to the hawk that landed the other day just outside of the kitchen window? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. We may note that we find it interesting that queries offered to us are often already known. We assume that our confirmation is appreciated. Questioner, this seems to be connected with the concept of the birds being messengers in the tarot. And this is a demonstration that this concept in the tarot, and I was wondering about the mechanics, you might say, of this type of message. I assume the hawk was a messenger, and I assume that as I thought of the possible meaning of this with respect to our activities, I was in a state of free will, getting a message through the appearance of this very unusual bird. Unusual, I say, in that it came so close. I would be very interested to know the origin of the message. Of course, the origin is the one creator. The mechanics of this very mystifying to me. Would Ra comment on this, please? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, I was afraid that you would say that. Am I correct in assuming that this is the same type of communication as depicted in card number 3 in the Catalyst of the Mind? Ra, I am Ra. We may not comment due to the law of confusion. There is an acceptable degree of confirmation of items known, but when the recognized subjective sigil is waived and the message not clear, then it is that we must remain silent. Questioner, would Ra comment on the technique of blessing the water we will use to sprinkle on the salt? I assume we just sprinkle the water directly off of our fingertips onto the line of salt, and also how much in general should be sprinkled on the salt. How wet should we get it? This is trivial, but I'd like to get it right. Ra, I am Ra. The blessing of the water may be that one we have previously given, or it may be that one which is written within the liturgy of this instrument's distortions of the worship of the one Creator, or it may simply be obtained from what you call your Catholic Church in the form of holy water. The intention of blessing is the notable feature of blessed water. The water may be sprinkled not so that all salt is soaked, but so that the goodly portion has been dampened. This is not a physical working. The substance needs to be seen in their ideal state so that water may be seen to be enabling the salt. Questioner, I plan to redraw the tarot cards eliminating extraneous additions by those who came after Ra's initial giving, and I would like quickly to go through those things that I intend to eliminate from each card we've gone over and ask if there is anything else that should be eliminated to make the cards as they were when they were originally drawn, before the astrological and other appendages were added. I would eliminate all of the letters around the edge of the card with the possible exception of the number of the card, 1, 2, 3, etc. That would be the case for all the cards, I think, the exterior lettering and numbering. In card number 1, I would eliminate the star at the upper right-hand corner, eliminate the wand in the magician's hand. I understand that the sphere remains, but I am not really sure where it should be. Would Ra comment on that, please? Ra, I am Ra. Firstly, the elimination of letters is acceptable. Secondly, the elimination of stars is acceptable in all cases. Thirdly, the elimination of the wand is appropriate. Fourthly, the sphere may be seen to be held by the thumb and index and second finger. Fifthly, we would note that it is not possible to offer what you may call a pure deck, if you would use this term, of tarot due to the fact that when these images were first drawn, there was already distortions in various and sundry ways, mostly cultural. Sixthly, although it is good to view the images without the astrological additions, it is to be noted that the more general positions, phases, and characteristics of each concept complex are those which are significant. The removal of all distortions is unlikely and, to a great extent, unimportant. Questioner, I didn't think we could ever remove all distortions, but some of this is very difficult to interpret because of the quality of the drawing. And as we go through these cards, we get a better idea of what some of these things are and how they should be drawn. And I think that we can improve greatly on the quality of the card and also remove some of the extraneous material that is misleading. On the second card, in addition to removing the letters and stars, I assume we should, at the center of the female form here, where something that looks a little like a crux ansata is, we should change that. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. We perceive an incomplete query. Please re-question. Questioner, I think that I should put a crux ansata in place of this thing that looks a little like a crux ansata on the front of the female. Is that correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. And as to the thing that she wears on her head, that, I believe, is a bit confusing. What should it be shaped like? Ra. I am Ra. We shall allow the student to ponder this point. We note that although it is an astrologically based addition to the concept complex, it is not entirely unacceptable when viewed with a certain feeling. Therefore, we suggest, O student, that you choose whether to remove the crown or to name its meaning in such a way as to enhance the concept complex. Questioner. Would Ra please give me any information possible on the ratios of the dimensions and the dimensions and shape of the crux ansata as it should be made or drawn? Ra. I am Ra. No. Questioner. Card number 3. We will remove all of the letters, etc., and the stars, and I assume that it would be advisable to remove all these little cups around the outside of the rays representing the sun. Is that correct? Ra. I am Ra. Yes. Questioner. And card number 4, we will remove the letters around the outside and all of the stars, and it seems that again we have a situation of removing the wand and putting the sphere in the hand. Is that correct? Ra. I am Ra. Again, this is a matter of choice. Though astrological in nature, this particular scepter has possibilities of relevancy in the originally intended concept complex. This instrument is experiencing some small lack of that distortion which you call the proper breathing, due to the experience of your near past as you perceive it. Therefore, as this instrument has requested a substantial enough amount of transferred energy to be retained that it might effect a comfortable re-entry, we shall at this time ask for one more query after noting the following. We did not complete our statement upon the dimensions of the crux ansata. It is given in many places. There are decisions to be made as to which drawings of this image is the appropriate one. We may, of course, suggest viewing the so-called Great Pyramid if the puzzle is desired. We do not wish to work this puzzle. It was designed in order that, in its own time, it be deciphered. In general, of course, this image has the meaning previously stated. Questioner. Is there anything else that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra. I am Ra. Continue in harmony, communication, praise, and thanksgiving. We would note that this instrument's distortions would be lessened were it to refrain from speaking to some extent for a diurnal period or perhaps 2 if the difficulty remains. We would also recommend against the activities such as running, which could cause rapid respiration. This after effect of the greeting is not necessarily long-lasting. However, as this instrument has some blood vessels in the forward region of the skull, that is the integument covering the skull, greatly swollen at this time, and since this instrument has the distortion known as the streptococcal infection, it is best to be full of care for a short period in order that the distortions do not catapult the entity into longer-term after effects. All is well. We find the alignment satisfactory. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and light of the Infinite One. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. Now, there's many, many things. Of course, this is on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. I should say that. But there's many, many things that I think are in the information. And we've got to appreciate all of us are not in the same place when it comes to this information. There's some of us that are coming at it from maybe, I don't know, the easiest way I can break it down is very like kind of religious-y areas, which is totally cool. There's no criticism. There's no judgment on any of these. It's just kind of the best I can group people into. They're generally kind of more of a religious-y group. We've got more of a kind of spiritual, new agey, kind of evolved from religion, if you will, group. And then you've got kind of the I don't believe and maybe even lump into the negative sides. But so we've got this kind of group. And not everybody is in the same place in their evolution. Now, a lot of people might think what it should be for everybody, and that's not the decision for you. So again, there are service to self people that are graduating right now amongst us. Like it, don't like it, it's what's happening. And there's service to other people graduating right now. Like it, don't like it if you're the other side of the fence. That's just what's happening, right? So wherever you're at on that path, I'm hoping you can maximize your benefits. Now, I don't coach in any way, service to self. I don't really coach at all, frankly, anymore. It's just something I don't have time for. But I'm service to others. I'm not really interested in trying to help people be better at service to self. I don't want to. I mean, I know a bunch of people like that. I probably could give some pointers, maybe. But I don't think I understand the ins and outs of it. I don't think I understand the pure commitment that has to come from within. So if there's to actually graduate service to self is not easy. So life is meant to offer some resistance. One of the notes I put down, then we'll take the last questions. But life is meant to offer resistance. Resistance is actually what creates the work, what creates the outcome. It almost sounds like there's old technologies where you could like move a thing and create friction, and it would light a light bulb, or there's even sparks. Same thing, kind of, right? To start a fire, you can do the little flint. It is that resistance that kind of creates the outcome. Nothing easy. That's why they say there's no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing easy is worth really pursuing because it's not going to benefit you. If it's the thing that you're like, I want to do this, but it's going to be kind of hard. I have to do this and that. Like, that's the thing you need to do. Oh my God, but it makes me sort of nervous when I think about it. Yes, you definitely need to do that. Do it. And watch what happens. Watch when you start going, should I do this? Just say that. And see what your life shows you in one day. Within one day. Sooner, probably. It'll, you'll be like, oh, everyone's talking about this. Like, that's weird. I'm telling you, ask the questions. You'll get the answers. It's like there's people watching. I hope it's not true like that, but kinda. Like windows, and they're like, yeah, look, what's Dan doing right now? Oh, man. Singing to himself again? Talking, singing, whatever. So life is supposed to offer resistance. The resistance is the key. And when we get that, when we understand it, we'll be insane. Hawks is a big one. So I don't know about you guys. This is something that I came into contact with a long time ago. Got tied into a number of different names, I guess. But to me, it's sort of more of an energy, I guess. But hawks are a lot. Hawks are complicated. They're fun. If you want to look up, what is it? Hawks and shaman. Hawks, shaman, and totem, even. Those three words. Just put them together. Hawk, shaman, totem. Look that up. Totems are awesome. Shaman's a big one. It'll get you into the meanings of some of these animals. When you see a weird animal that catches your attention, go and look it up. Animal, shaman, totem. And you'll be amazed at kind of some of the stuff you'll find. And it will help guide you. There's symbols for a reason. And there's symbol dictionaries available to us online. So we should take advantage of that. But hawks are amazing. Hawks represent definitely a higher self, a freedom. They're predators too. I mean, they're fierce. And they also represent this kind of this gliding, right? Like the wings out, and I mean, granted, if you're somebody that lives up in Alaska or even maybe in Canada and stuff, like they're like pigeons almost sometimes, just pooping on everything. I mean, there's people that are like, dude, eagles are not everything you say. And you're right, but they're very majestic when they're actually in the air and they're not just, eating something and pooping on your thing. That's not cool. We don't like that. But it also brings back like a lot of the concepts of songs like, Eagle's Wings or a lot of those, just the songs that kind of bring in that concept. Like even angels angelically almost seem to have wings, described almost like they're eagles' wings. Like this, it's sort of a thing that's kind of baked into our subconscious culture, if you will. So it's something that I think might be fun to explore for a lot of you guys. But hawks certainly are something I've seen. I was even owls are hawks, by the way. They're night hawks, which is very cool. And there was just recently, and there's just one quick story I'll share, and then I'll take questions. But I was like driving up the road. I get in the morning, take off. And literally, I turn, I get onto the road right up from my house area, the neighborhood, and I pull onto the main road, And just immediately, wow, hawk goes flying by, a giant owl goes flying right over my car. And I'm just like, thank you. Like, I'm like, today's going to be a good day. I'm getting a visit from my friends. This is the way I take reality every day. And you can say I'm crazy. I don't care. That's fine. But I'm going to tell you, I have the most amazing life. And I don't mean that in any sort of weird, braggadocious way. It's not. I love it. And when things aren't quite right, I adjust. I get it. Life's great. I don't have a lot of drama. I don't have a lot of BS. I do what I do, and I enjoy what I do. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. It can be for everybody. And I think paying attention to what we're experiencing is a huge part of that resistance. The work, the hard part. And again, keeping us in line, like the gutters. I was talking about that earlier. All right, let's get to questions. I think I got a couple questions. Let's get to where I'm supposed to be instead of where I've been. All right, Good Water Woman's the first, and she's a honker. She is a good old-fashioned Canadian girl. That's what's going on there. Question: the information around the garlic and salt was a bit confusing. Can you help to explain it? Yes. So the salt, I mean, exactly what these things are doing and breaking that down. So salt is a sort of a chemical thing. It's a very much part of the earth. It's used to sort of help seal the exits. Garlic is something that they don't like the smell of. It bothers them. Dracula. There's that whole thing that goes with that, right? Tied to garlic. Yes, there's a reason for that. So garlic, and again, I'm not an expert in magic. You can look more up on it. But garlic is something that is not preferred. The concept of the funnel, which you're leaving out, which is very important also, is a way to help show them how to get out. And the quick example I'll give of this, though slightly different, but similar, is there was a playhouse theater that I worked at one point, and I knew it was haunted. I could feel it. I knew, and just whatever. And so I eventually kind of established a connection with the spirit. And when I did, we had to just kind of, I was very cool. It was a very cool discussion. This guy wasn't mean or anything like that. He was just like kind of confused. And I kind of let him know. I'm like, I told him, I go, you have family around you right now. There's people right now around you that are trying to help you get to the other side. And at that moment, I could tell, and I felt it. It saw it. It looked. It realized. And it was finally able to free. And I never, ever experienced the ghost again in the theater. And for any of you that have ever worked in a theater, the light switch to turn on the lights is always in the very, very back of the theater. So you have to walk through as much possible darkness as you possibly can go through. So anyone that sort of gets some sort of panic attacks when darkness starts to occur, theaters are fun as hell. They'll spin you right round, baby, right round, like a record and stuff. All right, we got another one. Think 2000. Think 2000. I'm thinking that right now. That's where my mind's at. We got another one. Another question. When channeling, manifesting, is there a hierarchy of steps taken during these practices, such as intent is more important than visualization, and visualization is more important than environment? Here's the real key. Is a nutshell. If I can give a simple answer on this, I mean, again, I love manifesting. I think it's one of the most important things we figure out ever. The concept of learning the practices are just techniques that are meant to help focus your attention, your energy, your mental imagery part that does the creating. Then the rest of it is really just letting it happen. Well, and part of that thinking, just to step back 1 second again, hit reverse, beep, 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 right? But so we do the manifesting, you think, you visualize, you feel, you see it, but the feel's the really important part. So like the thinking is kind of like maybe the garden hose size, but the feeling of it is really the pressure of the water, right? Like you could have like a hose that's got crap pressure and barely squirts out. If you're not feeling it, you could feel it a bunch more, and it's a good stream. It's a good stream. You can almost get the windows wet on the second floor. Or you could be feeling it so much you damn near burst the hose. The feeling is really, really key. Now, that said, you feel as though it's happened already. That said, The worst thing that we do to ourselves, and it happens all the dang time, and this is what we do, just like, we're just trying to destroy ourselves every second we can, is we let the mind chatter talk us out of it. We let the mind chatter create thoughts that are, no, this is bullshit. This is not. And you destroy it. You just shoot yourself in the foot, your knees, your hips, your head. You just shoot the hell out of yourself. So that's what I watch people do. That's honestly, when I coach, that's what most people are doing wrong, is they're questioning everything after they do all the work. Well, I did all the work. And then I'm like, all right. And then so like you talk to them for a little bit. So like, what's going on? What's happening? And then they start describing their life, and you hear them put these patterns of thought out there to the universe. Either I'm not good enough, or everybody's like this. Like it's one of the things you'll catch him saying stuff. He's just like, oh, well, everybody, I always bump into people that are jerks, And then you're like, well, there we go. Okay, there's one thing you believe that you're experiencing that's really not helping, right? And so you just start to put together where some of the moments of fun are, and then when you can sort of shift people out of that, or at least get them to notice it themselves, pay attention to what's happening on the screen in your own life, you will be amazed at what you can do when you finally accept responsibility for what you're experiencing. Most people, 95% of people blame others for what's going on in their lives. That's it in a nutshell. Point your finger out, there's 3 coming back at you for a reason. That's the thing. If you're experiencing it and it's pissing you off, figure out what it is that you are doing, and when you change it, the problem goes away. That's how you know. You don't see it anymore, and you literally won't. And your life will change. You'll start to just be like, oh, crap, that's really all I got to do? Yes. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. All right, I think we answered that. I think we got one more after that. September has a question down here, apparently. Oh, question, big picture. Ooh, I like big picture questions. That picture's giant. Are the really bad people, Schumer, Biden, Clinton, just service to self or something else? So I kind of actually think, and this is my understanding of it, and I don't think Law of One really deals with this, but this is really my understanding of it. I actually think there are people that are service to self that are not necessarily evil. It's one thing to use other people. Like I kind of remember I had a boss. He was the he was the VP of accounting. Like he was big wig. He was big deal. And he was a dick. He was just a dick to everybody. And he had sexually harassed a number of different people. But I don't necessarily think he was evil per se, like many, like some of the crazy stuff we hear. So I think there's levels to it. But I do think there is a difference between evil and good. And I even think there's a lot of people that are on the service to others path that are very heavily affected by evil. So I kind of almost feel like they're 2 different dimensions, if you will, or 2 different, like XYZ axis, like maybe it's like the W axis or something weird. But I do feel like there's this evil component that can play a part in our decision making. And really what I consider evil, just I guess to put an extra little spin on it, is anything that diminishes yourself or another, which is the same thing. We are all one. So if I in any way diminish another, be it myself or another, I am doing evil. Now, it's one thing to have control over somebody, but maybe you like pay them well, maybe you treat them well, maybe right? Like there's components to where you're not being a dick, but you are controlling someone. And if they like want to take a day off, you scrutinize, right? Like there's like some of that, but you're not, right? I think there's levels to it anyways. My point is, because I think there's some people that do some just god awful stuff. And I certainly don't want to talk about any specifics because frankly, that just creates more of it. That's the hard part that people don't really understand either. If you imagined a world where fill in blank of horrible thing that's happening didn't exist. Okay? Imagine a world where whatever it is, whatever your thing is, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to be specific. What's the thing that, if the world didn't have this, it would be better? If that world existed, would you ever talk about it? Would you ever think about it? Would you ever spend any moments with that concept in your mind? No, because it doesn't exist. And yet, we don't quite understand that. A lot of us, and I'm not saying it's your fault that we have problems in the world. I'm just saying this is, as a collective, why we have problems in the world. I honestly don't. I think there's only like 40 of us in real life. I mean, maybe it's more. I mean, I'm just being kind of facetious a little. But sort of, I think we multiply out. Like, I think all of us that are real player characters have a whole bunch of NPCs that are kind of controlled by us. That's what I honestly think. I think there's a bunch of stupid ass people out in the world that have been created by us. And we just deal with them. But every once in a while you bump into a real person and you're like, man, you feel like an old soul. It's almost like I know you or something. I think you're actually bumping into the actual player character. That's what I actually think. This is kind of what I've come to find in life. You meet a lot of hokey people, and then every once in a while you meet really cool people, and you're like, all right. And I may have had fun with those fungusy things that happen. Might accidentally one time fell down and fell into my mouth, and I chewed it up and just ate it and had weird experiences. Didn't quite happen like that. I took it out of a baggie, but still. I feel like I've seen The Room twice, where I went into before I started this journey. So it's very interesting. I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know, but it twice, same room too. There's not a lot of people in there. That's the thing that trips me out. There wasn't that many people. It's not like a big auditorium. It's like there's a couch, a couple couches, a bunch of buddies hanging out, like playing video games. I'm like, it's like 4 of us, I think. I don't even know. It's like crazy. So whatever. We'll find out. I'm probably just talking to myself, for the most part. Create all these NPCs that listen to me. Love you guys. So, yeah, do we have any more questions? Oh my gosh. A-score, help me, Goose. Let's see. Finally, yeah, okay, I got it. So, yeah, we got everybody covered. I think we did a decent job. A-score, once again, thank you so much. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I hope you guys are getting something from this. This is one of many things. Like I've recommended books before. I've recommended a lot of stuff. And we can maybe talk about that on the final episode of the Law of One. But there's just a lot of really, really good stuff that I think is out there that gives a solid foundation, if you will. And then, yeah, run away, run wild, and ask questions and pay attention, because your life will be amazing. It just gets better. And if more of us, like I said, I'm talking to the real player characters out there. I know there's a bunch of you guys in my audience. If we figure it out, you and me, we change the whole world. The whole ecosystem, if you will, changes. Because you and I figured it out and started living consciously. I'm telling you, I have the most powerful audience out there. And you guys are the creme de la creme. I hope you get something from us. I hope. Maybe I just sound like a crazy man. That's fine too. I'm not going to be the first person to say that. I love you guys. I'm trying my best to help. We're going to keep doing it. We've got, what's 96? I think 106. I think is the last one. Whatever. It's almost over. A couple more weeks, guys. A few more weeks. We're going to keep doing this. So I love you guys. Also, any of you guys that are in the audience that are into our $5 meetings, that's happening Saturday. Just to remind, I'll bring it up tomorrow too on the music show. I love you guys. We're going to continue working together and changing the world. And why I keep saying, where we go one, we go all. I think that's mostly for all my NPCs. But of course, it is On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.
Meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a Big Bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The Big Bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.